Hi there. I've been doing these live videos for YouTube recently, and I before that I was doing a lot of recorded videos, and they're mostly for God's Word Jesus. So for many years I've been reading the Bible, and I got to a point in my life where I wanted to start discipling to others. So that's a long story, but basically I was blessed with a local church. That's what they do. They try to follow the Great Commission. Um, it's an international church. It's International Church of Christ. So, but this video I'm making here is not about that. I just thought that while I was making these one of my gospels after I was watching it, I thought, yeah, I spent a lot of years um, studying the Bible, and and now I'm able to put that into videos. I'm not saying that I'm smarter than anybody about the Bible or I know more, but I know something, and I believe in God and Jesus. So I'm trying to share the gospel. So then I thought, well, you also have spent many years doing human factors, And I thought, well, maybe I could go ahead and start doing some videos about human factors too. Um, and I guess this is kind of a disclaimer for everything I do on YouTube that, you know, uh, I'm not trying to tell you what to do, or it's up to you to do what's right. Um, so I'll just give a brief intro, and I decided, well, I'll start this first. First, I went to see if there was a hashtag human factors in YouTube, and there wasn't. So I said, hey, I can start a new channel with that. So this is the first video for the new channel, and if you're a human factors expert and you'd like to share some information, go ahead and feel free to use this hashtag human factors. That's okay. Anyways, I guess I'll give you my life experiences. A quick. I don't want to get into too much detail, but when I was a child, a young child, we weren't that well off, so my mother wasn't able to buy new things. She didn't have the money, so she would go to the stores and buy things that didn't work, basically, and they sold them very cheap. So when those things would come home, for my presents, I would get them, and my present was to take these things apart and try to figure out why they didn't work and put them together. Later on in life, also, since I was the fourth child, I could watch my other brothers and sisters. I kind of were watching what they did and tried to say, okay, well, I don't want to do that, or I would do this. So it was kind of like watching the humans as they did their, the human factors, observing how humans do things. I don't know. Maybe I don't want this to be too long of a video, so I guess I'll cut to the chase. Then it kind of turned into later on, I'd tinker with things. I'd find things on trash piles and bring them home and work on them, and then it all kind of evolved to how I am today. I like learning new things, So recently, I've been trying to these iPhones. I've been like trying to learn how to repair them, and so I'm repairing them and taking them apart. And then I had learned guitar. I started learning guitar, and so that's kind of a thing. A lot of different. I get into different things trying to learn. But as far as the human factors, I guess. And a lot of it started when I was an electrician in the construction trade, and I'll probably start a different channel for the electrician thing. But when I was an electrician, I, the processes, we have to improve the process. And I was lucky enough to work with a guy named Charlie Fink that was really good at how to make efficiency and effective ways of getting work done. So through a lot of that, I learned, how the human does things, and but then after I had finished my 2-year degree at a community college, I was praying, what am I going to do next? Where's the next step? And that Saturday, I was praying about it, and I was talking to my mom about it. And then that Saturday, I got a letter from University of Miami to do a degree in industrial engineering. And so, and that and that degree is, that's improving the processes. And my focus was a lot on the, I noticed that in my past and during that 4-year degree, that a lot of my areas with human factors, and then um, when I started the master's, I after the first year of that master's at University of Miami, and the reason why I started the master's because I wasn't fortunate. I didn't get any job offers, so which was a great blessing because I continued the master's degree, and after 1 year, I had found out that I could. I started well within that year. I had an interest, and actually from the beginning, when I was doing the 2-year degree, the AA degree, I had interest in NASA. I thought, oh, I'd like to work at NASA because there's really smart people there, and I like to be with really smart people, to be able to improve myself. So I wrote a letter to NASA asking about industrial engineers because I got that letter and I knew that I might be an industrial engineer, and they basically told me at the time that we don't hire that many industrial engineers. So it was kind of like, well, I guess maybe I'm not going to be an industrial engineer, but I'm going to go ahead and do the degree, or I'm not going to be an industrial engineer for NASA maybe. But I went ahead and did the degree. I had faith that God was in control, and I still have that letter that says that they mostly hire mechanical and electrical and not really industrial engineers. But what happened was, by the time that I finished my bachelor's degree, they had started hiring industrial engineers at NASA. So and then one of my professors, Dr. Fahmy, had told me he knew that I had an interest in NASA, and he told me, "Hey, there's he was a biomechanics teacher as well. He said, "Hey, there, you could maybe do a co-op at NASA. Go talk to the coordinator." So I went to talk to the coordinator, and I applied for that twice at NASA. I applied for the co-op, and then but I didn't get it. But sometime after that, they sent an email and said, "Hey, there's a job opening, and you can apply. This is a full-time job opening." So they saw my interest, and I applied for that job opening. And to make things short, I got hired there, and it was with the industrial engineering group. And my first project was to you can pick your own projects. It's kind of called like accelerated training program. So then my project was looking at the damages that were done inside the space shuttle to some of the hoses there. So at the time, I didn't realize it. It was a human. It was like 100% like a human factors, focus. Prior to that, my my master's project that I had done. Actually, I was in the middle of the master's while I got hired at NASA, and then I started working on the master's project. And the master's project was looking at people to repair the towels on the space shuttle. They had to reach up, and so there was like an ergonomic study. And then I realized from my capstone for my 4-year bachelor's degree, I was observing an office, the work that was done in the office, and try to make improvements of that office they had there. It was the office they had that did all of the, it's kind of like the maintenance and repairs of the University of Miami. They had an office there. People call in for, a service job, and so so then God just kind of, He put me in these situations, and I was, when I started working at NASA, I was with Jessica Mock, and she's got a PhD, and she's in Johnson Space Center now, but her area was her human factors ergonomics. So it just kind of put me in these places to mold me, and I'm really thankful for that. So that was my first when I first started working at NASA, and um, so then I would, I started working at NASA there. I prayed every day that God would, lead me in the right areas to do, where He wanted me. And um, there's a lot more that I can share about, what I did. But from there is where that's kind of like the beginning, leading up to that. Um, and I guess I'll just continue with education. Uh, I went into, the PhD, and then there was an offer. There was, after finishing the master, some of the group was saying, "Hey, there's a opportunity to do a PhD at University of Miami." And I said, "Well," I thought, "Well, it's not always good to do a degree, all three degrees in one college, but I already know the faculty there, and I'm already working full time. Maybe this is the right thing to do." And the opportunity was there, and to be able to take classes at that time was a lot easier than now. So and I thought, well, if I do the PhD, it's going to help me improve. I'll be, like smarter. I'll be a better employee for NASA. So that was all within the first couple of years at NASA and everything. So I started the PhD, and then after the taking all the classes and completing the qualifying exams, it came time for what is your area going to be? What focus area for your dissertation? And it kind of we had like some meetings with Dr. Ashford, and he's a great guy. Really, he just knew so much. He was a great mentor to me, and like a father, a brother. Um, I don't know how much he was really just he became like a more of a mentor when I first started at UM. The first class that I started, going back to bachelor's now. What happened was it was during the summer I was taking calculus 2 and another course at the community college, and I got a letter and it said, "Oh, you can start at the University of Miami. Um, you can start a class." And I was just finishing up the 2-year degree, and I told my mom about it, and I said, "I don't know if I want to do that. I'm taking calculus 2 now and another safety class. Um, no, I'm taking calculus 2 during the summer at University of Miami at Miami-Dade Community College. I don't know if I want to start another class all the way in the University of Miami." And my mom said, "You should do that. Get started. Get in there. Get in. You're going to be going there. You might as well start now in the summer. Get everything set up with the college and everything at University of Miami." So then I did. I went ahead and I called Dr. Ashford and said I would start. And then he was my first teacher. It was a safety class, and one of the things he taught me there was we went through the different chapters, and we had, it wasn't that difficult. It was about industrial safety, and I mean, it wasn't mathematically difficult. And basically, the exam was an oral exam. So, of course, I read the book, and I listened to the lecturers, and I studied. And when we had the oral exam, he asked me questions, and I gave him the answers. He goes, "I want you to go back and read the book a couple more times." And I thought at that time, I said, actually, I didn't go back and read the book because when you go to the next semester, you end up reading those books. But I thought about it later on that that's how you really learn something, by going back to reading something over and over again. He was right. That was very wise of him to tell me that. So um, I think I'm just gonna. That was pretty much So when it came time to do the topic for the dissertation, again, we had some meetings. I had a meeting with Dr. Ashford, a few others, and he was explaining how biomechanics could be one of the ways, things you could do, or you could do this or that. And I ran that by my mom, and for some reason she said, "You should do biomechanics. That sounds interesting." And so that's what I did. I kind of thought, yeah, that kind of fits into the human factors, the human area. So that's when I picked that as the topic for the PhD dissertation. Um, and So for many years, I worked on that PhD, gathering data in the lab. That didn't take too long to. It took a while to figure out how to, do the experiment, the experimental setup, and what the literature review, and it took a little while, but most of the time it took was the data, because with humans and with the experimental setup, sometimes the data is not that clean, and I was also building a biomechanical model. I built two biomechanical models for that for that PhD. So, but the second model I was building, I was using the data that I had collected, and some of the data wasn't that good sometimes, and so I was kind of like building a model with data that wasn't always that good, and I didn't find that out until later. That, oh yeah, this is why I'm having so much problems with the model. But anyways, thank God I was able to get all that done and complete the PhD, and PhD in industrial engineering and with a focus on biomechanics. And as I was, so that's the school part of the human introduction of my human factors, and the work part, childhood. I gave some childhood. I gave some of my work with the electrician, but my work at Kennedy Space Center is where, for some reason, I started realizing that human factors wasn't getting. It might have been when I went to some of the meetings with some of the giants there, the first people to lead the human factors. I noticed that it didn't seem like there was requirements in place and processes in place for getting the human factors you know into the designs. And so what happened was is I was working in the operations of space shuttle, and I had an opportunity. They gave me an opportunity. They were kind of reorganizing. They gave me an opportunity to be a manager of the VAB, which is probably a good move if I wanted to be promoted. And um, but at that time, I thought, well, manager of a facility. I mean, I just got done being an electrician for 11 years and building, stadiums and the Diabetes Research Institute. I was the supervisor for the electrical, electrical for that. I don't really want to be a manager of a facility, but looking back at that again now, that's a facility for processing the space shuttle. That probably would have been a good move. So I started, exploring other jobs. One of the jobs was at the launch vehicles that they have that are unmanned, and another job that I was looking at in Kennedy Space Center was it was a new kind of like it was put in place for the orbital space plane. It was under this space station process. I'm sorry, the International Space Station, and it was called UB. That was the directorate, and so um, and that position was human factors. You believe that they wanted a human factor. So, but at the time, I didn't realize when I went over there, they go, okay, well, they're saying like astronaut human factors. So they were looking at the astronaut human factors. But when I went over there, I thought I was going to be, doing the ground processing human factors. So little by little, we were able to, I was able to, I explored, improving the ground processing human factors for within the orbital space plane program. And we were able to establish some, because what happened back then is we had flight hardware that would come from the developers in Johnson. They would design and develop those flight hardware. We'd come to KSC and we would process it. And but the requirements to build that hardware didn't have ground processing requirements. So what happened was for orbital space landing program, we were able to take some of our ground requirements that we used in the 1472 and roll them up in a small set to be used on it was called the CEB. That was the crew vehicle for the orbital space plane that came after that. So the orbital space plane actually changed into the Constellation program, and the requirements that I'm talking about were going towards the CEB. So that was the beginning of that. And the history kind of after Constellation, then what happened was they wanted to develop a HSIR, which was the Human System Interface Requirement. So there was a fellow named Charlie Dischinger that was leading that, and he wanted to get a section in there for ground human factors. So I worked along to what happened was when we had those CEV human factors requirements, which there's the paper on that out there. It's got my name and Charlie Dischinger about those requirements. Those same sets, we ended up putting those in the HSIR for the Constellation program for the launch vehicle and the flight vehicle. So basically saying, when you design these launch vehicle and flight vehicle, you need to consider human factors. So when it comes to Kennedy Space Center, those people can work on it. They can get in there, they can reach in there, and they can lift things without getting hurt. So that was on the spacecraft side. There's a lot more detail, and I'll probably go through my papers. That'll be when I give the following on YouTube. So I'll bring up a paper. I can share with you more details of published papers. So that was with the flight vehicle, and then I started to realize, hey, well, the ground systems too, they need to have human factors requirements and human factors processes. So I started, seeing how we could accomplish that, and I had developed it was called, and this is under one of my supervisors, Greg Horvath, and he was very good, and he said, why don't you develop a just called human factors requirements document. So I did that, and that was to take all the standards from like the 1472 and to come up with a set of requirements that we could use for the ground. And I did that, and but I guess because the standards at KSC, we're so used to using the 1472, it was hard to switch those 12 requirements. There was about 20, maybe 30 requirements instead of 30 requirements. But those 30 requirements actually was what Charlie Dischinger took to help build the HSIR. And those are 12, those 30 requirements or so that I worked along with Darcy Miller. She was really great at, she was safety human factors. So she was a great mentor. And so that was, I was blessed to be, able to work with all these, like I said, human factors giants, once it started the human factors. So anyways, the interest was for ground systems. So to kind of make it short, I was working in the Constellation program, and there was a job offer to go to the engineering directorate, and that's where my supervisor, that's why I applied for a position for human factors. There was a human factors position there, and it was a lead position, and it was also a lead for the entire branch. I became the lead for the entire branch. At first, it was supposed to be two separate leads, but then it became I became the lead for both areas, which was to do the human factors lead and then to do the branch lead of the it was called NEI. Anyways, it's okay. That's where I was. So I got the promotion there, and then I started working with the human factors requirements for the ground systems. The ground systems are all those systems that we design there that hook up to the rocket, the tower, the mobile launcher, all the fueling and communications and all those areas. So let's see, we were in Constellation, and we were doing the human factors for that, and then things changed, and we went to the new SLS program, and that's what we've been doing. We've been doing the human factors. There's a lot of different areas that I've been covering: the launch control system and several of the different systems for the SLS. And another involvement that happened when I was first starting in Constellation, I started working with a fellow named Donald Tran, and we would that's just us two doing the human factors, and Gina Henderson as well. She was she's a supervisor, so she had the expertise. Like I said, she was she's one of the first ones for the human factors there. So, I was lucky to be under her wings. And then things evolved in the engineering, and then now, I guess to date, to cut things short, we have a whole group of human factors working with the operations area. So once we design it in the engineering, it goes over to operations, and they need to human factors look at it like, well, where should we place these stands, and how many people should be actually doing the job? What is the best, number of people? Um, so through the design, we try to decide, okay, where is the best location to put something for someone to do it, and we also try to look at, say, well, can we do this with one person, or do we need two people? But when it goes to the operations, they look even further at that, and they're also doing some improvements there to the design too, using human factors. And we also have in the program, we have a human system integration lead, um, Cheryl Riviere there, and so human factors has become very accepted at Kennedy Space Center. That's my story. I don't want to get into too much details about what we do at Kennedy Space Center because um, that might be proprietary, but I can in my next lectures or whatever you want to call this. I can talk about the papers that I wrote along the way, and so I just wanted to start this one because I noticed that, hey, I have a lot of experience when I was doing the sermons in the God's Word Jesus uh, um, channel. And then I started thinking, hey, I can make another channel for human factors. I also have expertise in that. And maybe the third one might be the electrician. Since I was an electrician and I worked under a really brilliant superintendent um, to find ways to improve the processes and be more effective and efficient. And just want to thank God. Say a little prayer now. Thank you, God, for all the experiences that you gave me. You put me in the right places with the right people at the right time. With, really brilliant people. I'm so blessed that you did that. And, that's it. And I'll see you next time. God bless you. And remember, do what Jesus told you to do and you'll be okay.